this concept kind of hit me in the gut when I first heard it. And I've heard it a few different times now in different ways, but basically this has become my guiding mantra as I choose how to spend my time. And yes, you do have a choice. It can feel like you don't sometimes, but you do. So here's that mantra that has become important to me. Every time we say yes to something, we're saying no to something else. So just let that kind of sink in for a second. Every time we say yes to something, we're saying no to something else. So for me, for example, if I agree to take on a tight timeline on a project when I'm already booked, what does that mean? Is it less time with my family? Does it mean working the weekend to get it done? Does it mean canceling coffee that I'd scheduled with a friend? So I'm not saying we should never make sacrifices to build our dreams. That's part of what we're going to be having to do sometimes. But I just want to encourage you to give thought to how you might be spending your precious time and make sure that whatever you say yes to is really worth the cost, right? There's always a cost. So this has been a huge lesson for me. And I'm just mentioning it because I think so many of us, obviously myself included, don't give this enough weight and purpose in our lives. So time is really all we have. Do we want to spend it doing things just because we think we're supposed to, or do we want to spend it intentionally on the things that really matter in life and the things that help us get closer to our true business goals? So just something to kind of set the tone as we dive into today's conversation. So time management, this is a big, wide topic to cover. There are books, there are podcasts, there are millions of resources about this, lots of directions we can go. And as I mentioned, a lot of you asked some form of this question when you joined the group. So it's obviously something that many of us struggle with. So juggling projects, multiple projects, all in various phases of completion means you can often feel like you don't have any control of your day or your schedule. And on top of that, if you're running a business, when do you fit in all the business stuff like invoicing and marketing and bookkeeping and staying organized? So that's where we're going to go with this today. So in case we haven't met yet, hi, I'm Amy Farrell. I'm a longtime graphic designer and design studio co-owner. I run a design studio with my husband. So after about 20 plus years gathering experience in design and running my own business, I get to pass on some lessons that I've learned to other graphic designers and creatives and freelancers. Really, any service business will probably find value in what I'm sharing. I want to help you enjoy your creative process more. I want to help you get your valuable time back by skipping some of the mistakes that I've made along the way. And most of all, I want to help you create a lasting, profitable client relationships without losing your mind and burning out. So back to time management, here are a few things I know to be true for me when it comes to how I manage my time and projects. So number one, I almost always think I can get more done in a day than I actually can. Anyone else? Like, do you just jot down all this stuff on your to-do list and think, oh, I'll get this, and this done? You get to the end of the day and you go, oh, I didn't even get half done what I thought I was going to get done. Has it? Anybody have that happen? So number two, along with my time, my creative energy and focus are limited resources. And this isn't just me saying this. I mean, I know it to be true for me, but this has been researched and this is a fact, guys. All of us, obviously our time is limited. We can all agree to that, but our creative energy and focus are actually limited resources too. So we need to be careful where we put those, that limited energy and focus, right? When we go to take on any task. Number three, if I don't prioritize my tasks and productivity before I dive into the day, my productivity is dismal and I feel scattered, stressed, and like I've accomplished nothing at the end of the day. So has anyone else been in that situation? So from the perspective of a designer, design projects can require a lot of focused time and energy. And I think this is something that as designers, we tend to overlook. When we sit down to do a project, it's often, hours on end that we are plunking away at that project, working through ideas and trying to get it all all just how we want it and the great solution that we know is in there. So we're working away at it, and we have no way of knowing when that perfect design solution will reveal itself, right? It might take 3 hours, it might take 20, it might take more. So because of this, it's very hard to plan for me personally how much work I should take on and how I should schedule that work so I'm able to get it all done and get it done well. So I gave a lot of thought to, as I was preparing for this conversation with you, I gave a lot of thought as to what has been the biggest lesson for me that has really helped me get control of my day and my schedule as it relates to managing multiple projects and having the time to work on my business too. And this isn't perfect by any means, but it has really helped me get kind of a handle on it. So the primary strategy that has worked best for me to actually attempt to manage this craziness, and at the same time knowing things will always take longer and problems will come up. So what I've landed on is simply this: I've got to find a way to give myself more time, more padding, more margin for everything than I initially think I'm going to need. So that's, that said, sidebar here, it's human nature to use all of the time we're given for a task. So we have to find that sweet spot here where we're allowing enough time, but not too much time to where we're wasting it and not able to be focused. But my main point here is we always think we can get more done than we can. We've got to find a way to give ourselves the time and the space needed to accomplish whatever we're doing. So for most of us as designers, projects will overlap. Some you'll be actively designing, some will be out for client review, some will need revisions, some are ready to go to the printer. They're all in these various stages. So this is the process that design projects go through, and it's pretty set in stone. Like, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room to that. And we can't necessarily control, like I was just saying, we can't control how fast the design comes together or how long a round of revisions will take. Like, we might have kind of an idea, but it's not an exact science. So that becomes really the challenging part. So what I decided to do is look at the part that I can control, or at least control partially. So for me, there are things I can do to control the scheduling. Okay, now before you say, yeah, Amy, but my clients always have deadlines and that's out of my control, I want to say, yes, okay, there will be times where you agree to a certain delivery date and you need to push things faster than you normally would like. But here's the thing I want you to consider. If even half of your projects can be set up on a schedule that works well for you and your business, this will create some margin for you to work a bit faster on the other half of the projects that may need to move along a faster timeline. So in our design studio, this has meant first deciding on what our standard turnaround times are, what we want them to be for, the average project. And then we try to stick with those whenever possible. We communicate those turnaround times at the beginning of a client relationship, so it becomes the accepted norm of working with us. So this varies for us depending on the type of project we're working on, of course, but the point is that setting up some standard turnaround times gives us a roadmap or a template to start with, somewhere to go from, right? So we're setting up expectations early in the game with our client, which, if you've heard my talks before, this is key. Setting up expectations early on in the relationship is really, really important. Now, some clients might expect or assume when they first contact you that you might be able to start immediately on a project and they're going to have something in front of them in 2 days, okay? And sometimes this might be feasible for you if you're early in your business and you're just kind of waiting for new projects to come along and you're ready to jump on them and you're excited. But let's face it, as you get busier, this fast turnaround may no longer be possible. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be. And that means, breaking this news to your existing clients who are now accustomed to getting things super quickly from you. You're going to have to tell them, hey, now you're going to have to wait a little longer for projects to be completed. So this might be a little bumpy. This may not go over so well. So in essence, you've trained your clients to expect things quickly, and now you'll need to backpedal a bit. Okay. So to avoid this, I really encourage you as early as you can in your business to set up these standard turnaround times and try to think long term. What's going to make sense as you get busier? Try to think ahead a bit and imagine that if you have a full-time project load, what will that look like? What's a reasonable amount of time to provide initial layouts, to provide revisions back, to get production files ready, and try to reach for that goal now, okay? It's also important to make sure you're allowing time for admin tasks and invoicing and working on your business and not just in it. I think we tend to gloss over the time it takes to really manage a project well. We need time for emails and phone calls that are going to come up. And then we obviously need time to invoice the client, kind of wrap up our project and work on our businesses, not just in it. And that includes things like, marketing and updating our portfolios and updating our websites. So I've talked before about how I used to take on any project, you guys, pretty much any deadline at any price. And I felt I needed to do this because I was afraid. I was afraid of missing out on the money or afraid that I would disappoint someone. So if you're in this place, I totally get it. There's certainly no judgment from me, but I will tell you it wasn't good for my business or my health. Okay, I was building this expectation from my clients that I would turn things around on a dime. Okay, I was sacrificing myself a little bit each time I did that too. Each time I took on that less than ideal project. So true, it helped build my skills and it put more money in the bank, so it wasn't a total loss. But I wish I had put some boundaries around my turnaround time sooner, because guess what? Once I started doing it, it became clear right away that it's not a problem for our clients at all, okay? Now I tell our clients when we can deliver something based on what works for our schedule, and I rarely ever have a client say, never mind, I gotta have it sooner, we'll use someone else, okay? Rarely happens, like maybe 1 out of 20 times, if that, you guys. Clients are mainly interested in working with us because they like to work with us, and they don't mind waiting a bit longer than they originally planned if they need to. So, human nature, right? We all want things as soon as possible in this world, right? Doesn't mean we always get them as quickly as we'd like. And I think the reason for this is just that, speaking from a design perspective, clients may not understand the steps in design process when they request a project from us. They may honestly think that since we design for a living, that we have perfect design just happens very fast and there are shortcuts for getting there. And of course, we know that's not true. Creating a truly meaningful design takes careful thought and experimentation, research, reflection, adjustments a lot of the time. And sometimes we have to take a break from it for a few days and come back to it with fresh eyes. And then maybe there's more refinement that happens. And then we get to a place where we feel it's ready to be presented to the client, right? It's good enough to show them. So if a client thinks something should be ready in 2 days, it's not them trying to be unreasonable. It's just that they may not fully understand the process and the effort and the time required for a great design. And that's okay. And, in my opinion, that's waiting and doing it right is always the best approach. We want to always create design that's effective and that achieves the client's goals for the project, right? So I say all this to reassure you that it's okay to build a project schedule that works for you, gives you time and space to get to the right design solution. And that's what clients really want, is a great result, right? And if they're a good fit for you and your business, they will understand that and they'll want to support you in getting there. They'll understand how rushing the process isn't in their best interest or yours, right? So practically speaking, there are a few things you can do to create that space and margin in your schedule, right? How do we get there? So I try not to get too rigid with this, but I'll share with you my basic strategies for building in more. It has happened over the last couple of years. This has been a process, and it's, I will say it's not set in stone either. And there's weeks where it kind of all goes out the window depending on what's going on. But when I strive for what I'm about to share with you, I can't tell you the amount of stress that's lifted from my mind and my shoulders, okay? So I encourage you to just give it a try. It doesn't have to be perfect. Try it out, tweak it as you go. Totally fine. So basically what I do is I use a loose form of time blocking. And if you're not familiar with what time blocking is, just Google it. There's tons of information out there to give you the basics. The general idea is that you block out chunks of time every day or a week to do certain tasks or types of tasks so you can be efficient with your limited time and energy. It's centered around this whole idea of tripping over my words. Context switching. Every time our brains have to switch from one type of task to another, like say I'm designing something and then I have to switch and go to a totally different client meeting, or I have to work on some invoices or an estimate, there's time for your brain to kind of switch gears, if you will, over into the type of thinking required for that other task. So you lose a lot of time, and it kind of wastes some of your focus and your energy during that process. So like I said, you can Google this for a lot more in-depth and probably better explanation of what this is. And we can go, really deep into this, but today I just wanted to kind of give you an overview. So for example, in our business, Mondays, I have, this is kind of my day to get organized in our business. So there'll be team meetings. For me, that means a meeting with Todd, and then we have a part-time project manager that helps us out. So we all connect and get organized for the week, kind of talk about what our top priorities are, and then whatever's left for the day, I work on project work. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I schedule any client meetings that need to happen, and then I do project work as well. Thursday morning, I set aside a couple hours for invoicing and admin tasks, and then project work after that. And I will take meetings on Thursdays as well if we can't make it work Tuesday or Wednesday, but I try to corral all my meetings into Tuesday or Wednesday. And then probably the biggest help in my business has been that we keep Fridays fairly open. So we don't schedule deadlines or meetings on Fridays. That day is reserved for catch up, things that pop up, and the time to work on our business. Or I might decide to even take that day off or part of the day off to catch up on errands or relax a bit if it's been an extremely taxing week. So, and like I said, this isn't something I have all figured out, but it certainly doesn't, we don't always stick to this plan, but it's something that we try. I don't think there will ever be a finite, perfect solution, but what I know is that attempting to manage this is better than not attempting at all, right? So I would just encourage you to do something to allocate your time intentionally, no matter how small. So just start with putting some structure around maybe one day in your week and see if that helps. And if it does help, do more of that, okay? Over time, you'll figure out what works well to keep your stress level down and your productivity up. And I think that's really the ultimate goal. Getting it perfectly figured out doesn't happen overnight. And, I don't know that we ever reach perfect. I think that's kind of unreasonable, but we keep working at it, it'll get better. So this week, I just want to challenge you to, first of all, decide on your general turnaround times for the types of projects that you do for the most part, so that you're prepared to communicate all of that with your next potential client. Okay, you're getting ahead of the game, so you're prepared starting with your next client. It can be hard to do this for current clients and projects, but for your next one, have this ready to go. Have it prepared ahead of time, and then that'll give you the opportunities to set up a schedule that actually works for you, and so that you're not being reactionary to whatever timeline your client might ask for. If they ask for a certain timeline, you can certainly look at your schedule and see if that works for you, or you might push back and say, well, actually I need a bit more time here or there. And that's totally fine. So having this general turnaround time schedule ahead of time is going to help you kind of know what to say when the client says, can you do this by next week? Okay. So number 2, look at your week, and just from a general point of view, not specifically this week, but see where you can build in a margin for catch up and the what ifs and the unexpected. Okay. So like I said, we use Fridays for this, but do what works for you. I hope that's been helpful for you. As always, ask any questions in the comments, and I will definitely go back and see where I can help you out. And if you want to go even deeper and get more support from me and other designers, you can join a private free Facebook group for designers, creatives, and freelancers. It's called Designing Success. I'll drop the link here so you can join when you're ready. All right, have a wonderful day and a great week.